All about shutters and shutter speeds. To begin, the shutter is a part of your camera. It's the part that opens and closes to control the amount of light that is entering the camera. So it controls our exposure time. It opens quickly, stays open for however long we tell it to stay open, and then closes quickly. It regulates light entering the camera by length of time that it is open. There are other parts of the camera that regulate light as well, but they regulate it in a different way. So shutter has to do with length of time. And it is triggered by pressing the shutter release button, which is by your pointer finger on your right hand. It's a silver button on the top right side of the camera. Now, shutter speeds are generally categorized as either fast or slow, but of course there are some that are in between. So for fast shutter speeds, the shutter opens and closes very quickly, and it's not open for a very long time. Fast shutter speeds are used to freeze motion. They let in less light. That should make sense. If the shutter is only open for a split second, it's not letting in a whole lot of light. Sometimes you choose a fast shutter speed because you want to, and other times you choose a fast shutter speed because you have to. So for example, if you're shooting on a sunny day and there's a lot of light outside, you might have to choose a fast shutter speed to restrict some of that light so that your camera doesn't get, or your picture doesn't turn out too bright. So here are some example pictures taken with fast shutter speeds. All of them show the subject frozen in motion. They're not blurry. There's no fuzz or any like softness to the picture. They're very crisp, and that's because the shutter was only open for a split second, so the camera only saw the subject for a very short period of time and recorded that part. Now on the other hand, we have slow shutter speeds. Pretty much everything is going to be the opposite. The shutter is open for a long time with slow shutter speeds. Don't confuse this with a slow motion shutter. So your shutter doesn't open slowly, it opens quickly, but then it stays open for a long time and lets light into your camera for a long, long time, depending on how long you set it. And then when it's done, it closes quickly. Generally, if you set your camera to a slow shutter speed, you will hear it open, that'll be the first click, and then you'll hear it close, which is the second click. Whereas on a fast shutter speed, you hear the one click, but really it's both of those. They're just so close together you can't distinguish them. Slow shutter speeds let in more light. They're open for a longer time. They will show motion because the camera is seeing more of your scene. And sometimes you will have to choose a slow shutter speed to let in enough light to make a picture so that your picture doesn't turn out too dark. So here are some slow shutter speed pictures. We've got one of flowing water, so instead of looking like individual droplets, it looks like a kind of a blur. We have a person who's standing very still, so she didn't move, but the subway went past really fast, and so that is a slow shutter speed picture showing that motion. And at night here, we've got the headlights and the taillights of the traffic, and rather than looking like individual spots, they look like streaks of light. So that's a slow shutter speed. Of course, there are some that are kind of in the middle. Don't feel like it's only fast or slow, but it's easiest to start talking about the extremes first. On our cameras, the fastest shutter speed is 1/4000th of a second. Our slowest shutter speed is 30 seconds, but we can actually go a little bit longer than 30 seconds if we set our camera to bulb, and I'll show you that in class. Bulb means however long I hold the button down. But generally the one that's listed is 30 seconds. That's our longest. Not all cameras have all shutter speeds. If you buy a much more expensive camera, you're going to get more shutter speeds, and generally you'll get faster shutter speeds. On older cameras like this one here, this is like the camera that I learned on in high school, and it's one that I have sitting out in front of my desk if you'd like to take a look at it. This is how you change your shutter speed. It was a dial on the top right of the camera, starting with B for bulb, and going up to 1 second, all the way around. 1/60th of a second is this one with the red X. We'll talk about why that is. And this camera's fastest was 1/1000th of a second, so a fraction. Even though it doesn't show the fraction, you have to imagine that it's there. So they used a dial and had fewer choices, and on newer cameras, we adjust with the command dial. So that's what's getting pointed to here with the red arrow by your right hand thumb. You can scroll left and right, and that will adjust your shutter speed. And we have more choices on newer cameras, and like I said, more expensive cameras will have faster shutter speed choices. So I'm going to show you a series of pictures, and I'd like you to try to guess what type of shutter speed was used. So this one of the motorcycle, or the dirt bike. Slow shutter speed, because you're seeing the blur of his movement. Hummingbird is a fast shutter speed. Even though the wings look kind of blurry, hummingbirds move really, really fast, so it's hard to catch them. Fast shutter speed would be required to get any decent picture of them. How about this one, flowing water? This one is a slow shutter speed. That's why it looks so soft instead of individual water droplets. This one's fireworks, and it's a little tricky. There's two clues as to why it is the shutter speed that it is. This is a slow shutter speed, and that might seem kind of strange, but here's why. Number one, it's taken at night, so there's low light. So you need a longer shutter speed to get enough light for the picture. Reason number two is that the fireworks aren't the split second. You're seeing the movement. For example, here, as this one's spiraling down out of the sky, you're seeing that movement, so that's how you know that it's a slow shutter speed. Basketball player, of course, all sports are generally shot with a fast shutter speed. You want to freeze that motion. And in this case, it's pretty bright in there, so that might be another clue that it's a fast shutter speed. And at this point, we're going to stop here on how to, we'll switch gears and learn how to change the shutter speed on our cameras in class.